Welcome to another DragonLance Saga episode. My name is Adam, and today I'm going to give you my spoiler review of the Lost Chronicles Dragons of the Hourglass Mage. I will be spoiling the story, so if you don't want to be spoiled, stop watching now. I'd like to take a moment and thank my collaborator patrons, the Heroes of the Lance, and invite you to consider becoming a patron or member of this channel by visiting the links in the description below. You can even pick up DragonLance gaming materials using my affiliate link. This is my perspective only, and if you have any thoughts or you disagree with mine, I invite you to share them in the YouTube chat or in the comments section, depending on when you're watching this. Let me have a quick shout out to Thomas. Thank you so much for chiming in chat there. I do end up, I'm really busy normally, and so whenever I'm throwing one of these episodes together, I don't give a lot of lead time for the audience to know when to tune in. So it's kind of my fault. You know, if I'm being honest, why people aren't tuning in live normally, but that's okay. I understand. We've all got lives, and I'm trying to do my best with giving you all a bit of a heads up. So by way of a bit of, explanation on this trilogy here, the Lost Chronicles was really just set up not to be a continuous narrative read-through, but rather to fill in gaps of the original Chronicles trilogy and add a little exposition, a little bit of character development. And it really does that in spades. Some of these books are better than others, of course. There's these three here, Dragons of the Dwarven Depths, Dragons of the High Lord Skies, and now Dragons of the Hourglass Mage. I've reviewed all of them now, after today, so if you ever want to go back and read one of the reviews, you're more than welcome to, and I encourage you to let me know your thoughts, because if I'm being honest, I actually really appreciate other people's perspectives on these books. Sometimes I wear rose-colored glasses, and I don't see them for what they actually are, just for what I want them to be, and it's nice to get objective views outside of my personal experience, you know what I mean? Anyway, what I'm going to do is basically read you my written review, and then afterward, if you guys are in the chat, or if you're just watching and you want to have a little bit of a back and forth, we can do that. Just throw up your thoughts in the chat if you're watching live, and I welcome them. All right, let's do this. The book begins with a healthy foreword explaining Barum and his sister Jasla's story again, in addition to a slightly expanded Canticle of the Dragon. If you're reading the Lost Chronicles as a consistent trilogy, you would have stopped at the beginning of Dragons of the High Lord Skies, as that is not the intention of this trilogy. This is very much a collection of novels that fill in the gaps of the original Chronicle books. I suppose you could read them isolated unto themselves, but I do not think they would make a satisfying read without the context of the Chronicles trilogy. Book 1 picks up with Raistlin, Magir, and Palanthas, and let me give a little bit of an aside here outside of my written review. This book is broken into, or this novel is broken into 3 different books, as most of these reviews, as most of these novels are. Usually it's, 2, sometimes it goes up to 4 in some cases. Dragons of the Hourglass Mage is broken into 3 different books. So when I reference book, that's what I mean. So book 1 picks up with Raistlin, Magir, and Palanthas. It is revealed that he teleported onto the Library of Palanthas steps, nearly dead, and was taken in by the Aesthetics. Upon recovery, he reveals his plan that he is going to be taking the Black Robes without the permission of Ladonna, effectively making him a renegade wizard, according to a cutscene with Justarius, Parsalian, and Ladonna in the Tower of High Sorcery. And in that scene, it's also revealed that Takesis is granting the magic to her black-robed wizards rather than going through the moons, and she fooled Nuitari and Ladonna and is forsaking them just so that her will be done. A little bit of loyalty, so to speak. But back with Raistlin. He desires to rid himself of Fistandantilus before traveling to Naraka to present himself to the Queen of Darkness, and in order to enter into her service. He travels to the Wizard's Hat, which is this abandoned tavern next to the Tower of High Sorcery in Palanthas, and battles Fistandantilus with the Dragon Orb, effectively trapping him in it. Then he says goodbye to Asnus and Bertram and teleports to Naraka. Now, I skipped over an encounter with Flint and a near encounter with Taz, as I felt it really didn't offer anything to the book as we know it. We know that they don't see eye to eye, so I was used to them disagreeing, and there wasn't anything to be gleaned from that encounter. It was used more as a nod to those who already know Flint's ultimate fate, which was done in every book that's preceded it, so it's at this point it's kind of tiring to keep reading about it. We get it. We know what's coming. Stop leaning into it already. The real power of the first book is to see Raistlin go from the weak youth in Dragons of Autumn Twilight to a true powerhouse as he leaves Palanthas. Once he was dependent on Karaman, his twin brother, for everything, and now he's standing on his own 2 feet. However, if it weren't for the Dragon Orb, he would not have been able to become so powerful. So the question is, do the clothes make the man, or do the man make the clothes? Or, more specifically, does the orb make the man, or does the man make the orb? Book 2 deals with Raistlin's time in Naraka. He arrives in the middle of the temple, which alarms everyone, and is discovered by Iolanthe after being called by the Night Lord. Raistlin is seemingly protected by Takhisis from the Night Lord's torturing and convinces him of his mistake and desire to work for the Queen of Darkness. Iolanthe and Raistlin leave, and their connection is cemented. Iolanthe looks favorably on Raistlin because he's Kitiara's half-brother. She's trying to stay ingratiated with Kit in case she advances in power over Erika's. Raistlin, however, does not trust Iolanthe, even though she helps him to survive in Naraka. Raistlin confronts the Adjudicator one evening, a man who tried to torture him, and, Raistlin just hates bullies, so he goes to confront the Adjudicator, and out of nowhere, this Kender pops up behind him and murders him. Raistlin is immediately freaked out and knows if he hangs around, he's going to be blamed, and so he spirits off after this Kender. He learns that the Kender's name is Mari, and ultimately that she works for a group called the Hidden Light, which is a resistance cell in Naraka. Raistlin tries and eventually meets with them, and they offer him a job to spy on his sister Kitiara in Dergard Keep to find out what she's planning with Lord Soth the Death Knight. He leaves thinking about it, then is summoned by Lord Ariakan and tasked with the exact same mission on his behalf. The end of the book, too, concludes with Raistlin agreeing to both parties, unsure of who he is truly going to be working for. Raistlin is hiding the Dragon Orb from everyone, but ultimately reveals it to Takhisis, who then demands it, but after he refuses to turn it over and is not totally destroyed by her, he realizes that Takhisis isn't fully in the world yet, and as such, she's not all-powerful. Now, he's dejected at the state of the Tower of High Sorcery, which is more like a shack than a tower, and he's disillusioned by the other black robes in it. They ultimately are killed by the Black Ghost, which is never fully explained, sent by the Night Lord after Iolanthe suggested they were the cause for the Adjudicator's death rather than Raistlin. She did it to protect Raistlin, again to ingratiate herself with Kitiara. The book sees Raistlin washing the rose tint from his own eyes after the evil empire at the Queen's command and the sad state of affairs that they are truly in. He's working on a way to rise to power and is struck by the ignorance of, ironically, the self-serving nature of evil. All the while, he's looking after his own self-interest. This is the Raistlin that I truly enjoy. We see his ambition plainly, his need to wade through the mediocre in order to rise, his constant sense of loss of his twin Karaman. Book 3 packs far too much in it, in my opinion. Not only is it convoluted machinations of the Hidden Light, Lord Ariakan, Takhisis, Kitiara, Iolanthe, and Raistlin, seeming always to either line up or stand in stark contrast to each other, it just feels rushed at some point, so we can find our way to connect with Dragons of Spring Dawning. Raistlin is taken to Dergard Keep to spy on Kitiara, but it turns out that Iolanthe meant to take him there so that Kitiara could present Takhisis' plan to Raistlin. She's bringing in 3 gray gods to replace Solinary, Lunitary, and Nuitary, and these gods would then be loyal to Takhisis, and she's bringing them in through an Hourglass artifact, which is half of where we get the title of this book, the Hourglass Mage. His eyes being the other half. This turns out to be a total lie and is meant to trick Raistlin into telling the 3 gods, and when they come to confront the gray gods, they become trapped by the Hourglass. Lord Soth will then attack the Tower of High Sorcery in Wayrith when the gods of magic are gone, so the wizards gathered there for the Night of the Eye are helpless. Raistlin still has a few tricks up his sleeve, it seems, as he summons Cayenne Bloodbane, the green dragon, to attack Lord Soth, thereby protecting the wizard and tower, and in return, they agree to let him be free to follow his own path in magic, unmolested by the rules of the Wizards of High Sorcery. However, in order for Raistlin to summon Cayenne, he had to relent in order to allow Fistandantilus to re-enter his body. So we get the constant aid and struggle of them together in every scene following. Raistlin returns to Dareguard Keep to find his sister tricked him, and he barely escapes with his life. He warned the Hidden Light so that they would be assassinated by Lord Erican, and it turns out Iolanthe is a member after she attacks Lord Erican, nearly killing him, which she was supposed to murder Raistlin. Like I said, unnecessarily complex. Ultimately, it ends with Raistlin escaping from Naraka to God's Home so he can witness the death of Flint Fireforge, which, again, all the 3 books, they've been alluding to this happening, and the original Chronicles already, had it happen. So at this point, it still affected me, but I was more affected by Raistlin's interaction with Flint than with Flint's death itself. He actually ends up helping him ease the passing with some opium, of all things, and sees the companions have Barum and that they are headed to Naraka to trade him for Laurana, who was captured by Kiriara to be sacrificed for Takesis. Raistlin returns to Naraka and the Temple of Takesis with the intent of assisting his friends, preventing the Queen of Darkness from entering the world, and seeking revenge on Lord Erican, who it turns out is alive. This is an alternate viewpoint of Dragons of Spring Dawning, which reveals Raistlin's love of Caraman, affection for his friends, and his final battle with Fistandantilus in this future moment. He ultimately wins, and Takesis actually believes it was Fistandantilus who took over Raistlin, so we get a glimpse at Raistlin's godlike power and at the tail end of this book, and the book is over. Now, as much as I would have loved to live in the 3rd book a little bit longer because of the essence of Raistlin therein, it was packed with so many events that it could easily have made up a new book in and of itself. It could have been split in the middle. This is, however, a fantastic peek behind the curtains of the madness and chaos of the Queen of Darkness's army and the branches of her followers. The priests dislike the battle commanders. Neither of them trust the Blackrobe Wizards, and every tangential organization distrusts all of them. It's amazing that they conquered so much of Anslon in the first place. This novel, at its core, is a celebration of Raistlin as a character. Sometimes hero, sometimes villain, but always the self-interested, complete, and agonizing character we have grown to love and respect. I highly recommend this novel if you like Raistlin as a character at all. And that is my official review. Kevin, thanks for joining in here. I appreciate you. Justarius, yeah, he was only in for a little bit, and I really liked the interaction between Parsalian, Justarius, and LaDonna. It's this perfect encapsulation of how no one trusts anyone in this world. And tomorrow's episode, the setting episode that's going to be released, is all about dystopia, the fact that Dragonlance is a dystopia, and it's just personified in how not only do the wizards themselves see each other, but also the army itself and all the different high lords and commanders, how they're constantly vying for power, and it's just there's just no sense of peace or hope, not for the bad guys and definitely not for the good guys. And everyone in between is just sort of stuck hoping they don't get hit in the head by a dragon or something. Let's see. Running 3 live streams at once. Good on you, Thomas. I couldn't do that. You think you're being too kind on this book, which you found mediocre at best. It's like it was made from parts of greater Dragonlance novels and fused together. I think that's fair. What I really derived from it was Raistlin's headspace, you know? Did Raistlin really look like Flint and Laurana that much? Well, it did say in all of the books that Raistlin truly respected Laurana because she was true to who she was. Like, he always looked down on Kiriara because she was a little bit too much like him. you know, but he knew that she never really loved Tanis, or he believed that anyway. And so he always thought that, you know, she was always trying to scheme and connive and stuff. But Laurana, he always said that even though he didn't agree with her, he always respected her because she was the only one that was truly beautiful in his eyes. That he, you know, he saw everyone else aging and dying. When he looked on Laurana, he just saw timeless beauty. And I don't recall exactly what he said about Alana Starbreeze, but it should have been the same type of a message, right? But I don't remember him ever mentioning it. He always just seems to like harp on Laurana and her beauty. Everyone seems to harp on Laurana and her beauty. It's weird. Skull Cowboy 333, thanks for joining the live, man. Appreciate you. Raistlin, to you, shows how the left-hand path can work like Mephistopheles and Faust. Oh, interesting. Okay, making deals, is that what you mean? Selling your soul for power. And that certainly is what Raistlin's doing. And it does present this argument to constantly, someone mentioned it in one of the comments a long time ago, and it's just stuck in my head, where they're saying that Raistlin in and of itself is not powerful at all. He stole all of his power from Fist and Dauntless, and he's using the Dragon Orb, which is why he's so powerful. And this book kind of confirms that when he literally absorbs Fist and Dauntless with his own bloodstone, and then he starts to see his Fist and Dauntless's magic in his mind, knowing things that he didn't know earlier. If it wasn't for Fist and Dauntless, Raistlin would be a shadow of what he ends up being. I mean, he would have died in the tower, first of all, but, you know, there's no way, if he would have survived the tower, that he would have become anything significant. And that, it's a little bit bothersome because he does go back and fix it with the power that he's borrowed, you know, to then stand on his own 2 feet. But it does have this underlying question of, again, does the orb make the man, or does the man make the orb? Is Raistlin powerful without Fist and Dauntless and without the Dragon Orb? And I think we all have to agree that I don't think so. I don't think he is. I think he's... The only reason why he's sickly is because Fist and Dauntless is sapping his life actively. And so that was a really nice part in this novel as well, when he trapped Fist and Dauntless inside the Dragon Orb in book 2, I think it was, or the tail end of book 1. And then we saw Raistlin just as like a powerful wizard. He's just a regular, healthy, powerful human. And I thought that was a really, really great view, which is why I was so pissed off that he had to then accept Fist and Dauntless back so that he could then use the Dragon Orb in order to call Kyan Bloodbane, which, I don't know, kind of think that's crap. Let's see. The force of evil brings about good in spite of itself. Okay. The thing is I don't see Raistlin as evil at all. He's self-interested, you know. He's a survivor. He has ambition. He knows that the quickest path to power is through the black robes, which is why he shifted from his early training from white into, you know, being a member of the Order of High Sorcery in the red, and then ultimately now to black. He realizes that he doesn't want to be beholden to gods, and so he has to find a way of, you know, going around or going over them. And that's ultimately the base ambition of every decision he makes. But you always get these little glimpses into Raistlin's mind, which I always find so really interesting. His wish to be with his brother when he thinks his brother is dead. And then when he actually sees his brother, he can't help himself to try to help him. Like, he genuinely loves Caraman, and of course, you know, why wouldn't he? And he actually genuinely cares for Kitiara too, because when he had an opportunity to off her, he didn't do it. So I thought that was interesting. Let me think. I love Ilanth's character. I don't even know how to pronounce it properly because I feel like I want to buy a consonant in there. I think there's no reason why she had to end up working with the Hidden Light, like the good guys. There's just no reason. She was set up to be this really powerful, really effective black robe wizard that they just should have left it at that. And that's all you need. You know, she's just a very powerful black robe wizard. Leave it at that. But no, they had to then make everyone go to the Hidden Light, which, I don't know. You don't need it. What about the books he studies in the tower? He wouldn't have gotten to the Tower of Palanthas, if that's the one you're talking about, if it wasn't for being able to overcome Fist and Dauntless and the use of the Dragon Orb. Like that, there's no way he would have been able to do any of that. So I don't know. I mean, and let's be honest. He came out of the Tower of High Sorcery, and Parsalian, for whatever reason, decided that he wanted him to be his sword for the future, right? So he gave him the Staff of Mages, a flippin' artifact to a brand new 3rd level wizard. Who does that? I thought that was crazy. You enjoyed Raistlin's bond with Lunitary in that small scene. Something hinted at in the Soul Forge and Brothers in Arms. Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, I love how there's a scene where he just sort of was speaking to the gods openly, and then they just appeared, because even the gods realize that this guy is on a track that he's not a peer at all, but we could see him getting there someday. So, you know, he's doing things that are helping magic. He is totally devoted to magic. So let's give him a little bit of FaceTime. Let's go down, you know, glad hand a little bit, pat him on the back, hear what he has to say. And they're just kind of cool with him. Like, even the ones that don't like him are kind of cool with him. And that's kind of how everyone is, except for LaDonna, who out of nowhere tries to murder him when he's like actively trying to save their lives. I thought that was very strange. I don't know if the author was trying to just reinforce the idea that evil consumes itself and always turns on itself. And I guess black robes are supposed to be evil, even though I argue that I don't think Raistlin is evil. He's just self-interested. I thought it was a totally nonsensical thing for that character to do in that moment. Try to kill him. You're about to be murdered by Lord Soth and his undead army. And this is what you're worried about? This guy who's trying to help you? Come on. Oh, well. Let's see. It should be a book series that the main character is an Arak gaining power and followers. That's the other thing. Like, they were leaning into the... I never read the Draconian series, trilogy where they actually, like, make Tarsus. But they... In all of these books, they've referenced the Draconian that breaks away from all of the armies that eventually builds that city. And they keep referencing him. So it's this weird tongue-in-cheek reference because, like, he's not a bad Draconian. He's not a good Draconian. Again, it's all self-interest that he's looking after. But he keeps talking about how he's like, yeah, I really want to build my own Draconian city where no humans are allowed. It's just Draconians. And it's called... And then it gets cut off. Because I guess they didn't want to lean too heavily. But I think at that point, you've already tipped your hat to the point that you're falling over. Like, you're throwing it in our face. We get that you're referencing other books. Like, come on already. We're not, like, idiots. You don't have to keep doing that. I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right, Skull Cowboy. Race is only evil in the eyes of others. And certainly in the eyes of his victims. What I really love, there's a... it was the last... First edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dragonlance source book that was released. It was a module of different adventures set after the War of the Lance and after the Legends era. But the cover of it has Raistlin like shooting lightning out of his hands, and there's like fire and like a town on fire all around him and stuff. It's this really sort of hero shot of Raistlin Magir just in his peak of power. And the very tail end sort of scene / chapter of Dragons of the Hourglass Mage spoke to that image in a very beautiful way. It sort of spoke to Karaman just standing by him, sort of like useless, because Raistlin is like a demon or a god destroying everything around him with his magic. I was just like, yeah, that's the Raistlin we all wanted. That's the one who's been, that is him fully realized. You know, that character fully realized just before he confronts Takhisis herself. Your favorite description of Raistlin is when in Brothers' Arms, he is described as a knight of magic, not answering to a commander, but a god. I like that too, Charlie. Thanks for joining live, man. I think that's a great line. I haven't read those to the Brothers Magir and the is it Brothers in Arms? Gotta look at my shelf behind me. Oh, it's Brothers in Arms and Soulforge. I haven't read those two books in a while. I gotta revisit those because those were, in my memory, they were really good. The problem with doing those, the meeting sextet and sort of the prequel, I guess you could call them, books, is that in Dragons of Autumn Twilight, Raistlin's like a third level magic user. Like, he's not powerful at all. And so you do all this backstory about how he used to, run mercenary with his brother for all these different groups. Like, what? When he was like first level? Like, second level? Like, yeah. You can only paint them in an empowering brush so that it's interesting as a reader, but they were really low level characters. So I don't know how exciting it could really be unless you just say it's not going to make any sense. Don't think about it in terms of D&D levels at all, and just enjoy the story. You know what I mean? Let's see. You always thought Raistlin should have made more necromancy personally. Well, I mean, he did the whole, like, he created his own creatures in like the basements of the tower. I thought that was crazy. He was creating life and it was all like slimy and Lovecraftian and kind of cool. I thought that was the greatest thing there. It's like, oh yeah, he's already God. He's creating life. It's not pretty, but oh, that was the other thing about this book. There's this really great moment when he's posing as a priest in order to be able to move around the temple, and everyone's like coming up, and even the Night Lord comes up and demands to see his face, and he's like, no, I'm a worshiper of Morgian, the god, the disease god. And so his face is, this illusion, as soon as he peels back his hood, is his face is all diseased in half, being corroded and eaten away and just disgusting. And in my head, I'm like, that would be such a fun character to play. Like, as a role-playing game character, I would love, like, I used to play a priest of Chemish after I read the Dark Disciple trilogy, because, come on, that was great. I thought so anyway. And so I would run around with a gigantic scythe and just mess up people. We were like hunting heroes and stuff in the campaign. It was a lot of fun. Let's see. He took the necromancy spell and created life when he revived. Yeah. You want more of the live ones and so on. Yeah, that was it. The live ones. Thanks for saying that. I didn't remember the name. It wasn't a black robe then, or he wouldn't have killed Tiamat and Paladin for the reasons of power only. He wouldn't have been able to, until he became a black robe, to do any of that. Like, at least that's how I read it. Like, I could not imagine a red robe even going through all of that, in order to stand up against a god, when even in the realms of magic, it's still governed by those pillars of alignment, good, neutral, and evil. So it's just not really in that red robe, or certainly not the white robe mindset to confront and try to overthrow the gods. Like, it takes a special gem of a character. I mean, so much so, the only other one was Fistinadanilus, who even came close. And really, his only chance was because he was sapping the life like a lich, from younger mages. You're more of an Orcus guy than a Tharizdun in terms of patron in the game. Magic always is your thing. I have no idea what you're talking about. Is that a D&D reference? Is that a Dragonlance reference that I'm just ignorant to? I don't even know what that means. Yeah, dude, King, I'm gonna get there. I am. Thanks for tuning in live. I got Dragons of Spring Dawning next, and I'm already a quarter way through that, and then I'll have the Legends, and then we can go out and do some fun stuff. We can do the War of Souls, we can do Dark Disciple, we could go back to the King Priest, we could do the Elven Nations. We just have fun, just sort of bounce around. Anyway, that's all the time I have for today. Thank you guys so much. I spent much more time than I was planning. Okay, that makes sense. Then Skull. I was like, wow, maybe I shouldn't be doing this channel. I have no idea what he's talking about. I really don't know anything about Dragonlance, do I? Thank you all so much. Have a fantastic day. What did you think of Dragons of the Hourglass Mage? Is it the best Raistlin book or just a mediocre one? And, everyone's opinion is valid. It doesn't have to be high on a list for everyone, and it's okay if you didn't like it at all. I don't care. It doesn't hurt my enjoyment of it. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's the top ones. I think the Legends trilogy is the pinnacle of Raistlin for me. But I did really enjoy it. I thought it was a great capstone to Dragons of Winter Night and Dragons of the High Lord Skies. And it's a great way to set up Raistlin as a character for what we're going to see him end up doing, which is phenomenal. So thank you guys again. Have a fantastic day, and I hope you enjoyed tomorrow's episode, the Saga, the settings episode. And until next time, Slanjavar.